What is up, ladies and gentlemen? This is M Cubed, and of course, I am Schmook. It was a long weekend. We got some good stuff to talk about. We already have someone in here, which is awesome. Say hey in the chat so I know who's here. And, we're going to talk about some Deadpool today because we got a bitchin' trailer yesterday. And then we're going to go over The Walking Dead season 6, 7, and 8. And, I have a special guest today, a returning guest. But before I bring him in, I just want to clarify that I'm feeling a little under the weather, so if I'm a little nasally, that's why. I'm gonna bring my buddy in here. You know him as Bob. Welcome.
How's it going, everybody?
Welcome back.
Hope you all had a great weekend.
Yeah, Bobby and I had a really, really long weekend.
It was fun, though. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
It was fun. We had a good time, I feel. We had Mardi Gras here in St. Louis, which is like one of the craziest days of the year here. It's the second largest in the country, only behind New Orleans. It was crazy. But then yesterday, of course, was the Super Bowl. Chiefs won.
Got a lot of great stuff in terms of commercials.
Oh, yeah. Hey, David. Glad to have you back, as always. We got some good stuff. We're only gonna really talk about Deadpool because it's the only comic adaptation that we got for the Super Bowl. But we got a new Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes trailer, which looks sick to me. Big fan of those movies. This one looks sick. It looks like it's a way to expand the universe. We got a Wicked trailer. If you enjoy musicals, I know it's a very good musical, of really good music. The movie looks okay, but I mean, if you like the music, you should be fine. We got a Twisters trailer, which I love the original movie, the Twister from 1996, I believe it came out.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and then there's probably some more that I'm forgetting, but those are the highlights.
Oh, you're missing one of the big ones: the inside look at the new Walking Dead show.
Yes,
starring our boy Andrew Lincoln.
Yep, and that's what we're building up to with going through all these seasons before The Ones Who Live comes out, which I'm excited for. But of course, the big one right before the game started, Deadpool 3 trailer dropped, which we now know is titled Deadpool and Wolverine. So I guess let's talk about that for a little bit before we get into The Walking Dead. Bob, what were your thoughts of the trailer?
It looked beautiful. I'm not going to lie. I have been trying to keep myself as far away from it as possible just because I know the relationship off screen that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have. And I'm excited to see that brought on screen. But I was not expecting to see the TVA involved at all with this. I was not. But the fact that it is I think it honestly a good way for the Marvel Universe to initiate these kinds of crossovers between Fox and Sony and all that. Yeah. So
makes the most sense. And it's just sick to have a Loki connection because I think that's the best Disney Plus show by a long shot.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
And it's just nice to have that connection with TVA. Obviously, a lot of other connections to the MCU just based on the trailer alone. When he's in the TVA, he's looking at all this footage. You're a part of a bigger universe than basically. You see some recordings from Age of Ultron, from Thor Ragnarok, from Civil War, I believe, as well, or Winter Soldier. But regardless,
Avengers.
He sees Cap on the screen. He's saluting him, which is great. Because obviously they care about the material, the source material. That Deadpool is a huge Captain America fan. He probably just learned about him. He's already I like this guy, so that's cool.
Oh, what if we get to see a little bit of Tom Holland in there too, interacting with Ryan Reynolds? Oh, I'd love that.
I think there's actually some potential of that, but no matter what, I'm pretty sure Chris Evans is going to be in this movie for sure. Because we also see when the TVA is chasing him down this forest, I think he's in the forest of Age of Ultron. I could be wrong there. Kind of looks like that more so than the Logan forest, but you never know. Yeah, should be sick. That movie's gonna kick ass. It looks funny. You already get some fourth wall breaking within the trailer.
I'm Marvel Jesus.
Right, and it's gonna be our first rated R movie within the MCU as well. So that's a huge staple too. So yeah, Deadpool. July can't come soon enough, which sucks because it's at the very end of July too. So it's more like we're waiting all the way till August. But it's gonna be all right. That's gonna be well worth the wait. But of course, we know at the very end of the trailer we see Wolverine, and you see his claws, and we're getting Hugh back. It's gonna be epic. Excuse
It
me.
will be a lot of fun. But I know we're building up to the ones who live. So
Yes.
why don't we just jump into season 6?
Yeah. Okay. Because Deadpool, it was great. It was just a teaser trailer, so we don't have to go super into it. But I hope you guys who are watching enjoyed the trailer. I think the movie's gonna kick ass. But yeah, let's go into season 6. So where we left off, we had Rick just kill Jesse's husband, right? Because Pete, because he just killed Diana's husband. Oh, Carrie, nice. Glad you got a new laptop. Hell yeah. Glad that you could join us.
On a different note, Jorge just bought a car today too. So
What's
making
up?
big moves. Jorge just bought a car today too.
Oh,
so
he bought it. Good
big moves.
Hell yeah. Yeah. So we left off. Morgan just sees Rick kill Pete, and but yeah. So basically, season 6 starts off with the main draw of the first half of the entire season, which is kind of crazy. But the whole idea was that there's this huge herd somewhere like this canyon or whatever, right? But sorry, David threw me off a little bit with his comments, but we'll get to that. But anyway, so that's like the vast majority of the first half of the season, right? It's like them trying to move this horde away from Alexandria because that could easily just decimate the entire town, right?
Right. And there was a couple months of a time jump when we do start season 6.
And the season 6 premiere is a very interesting episode because it's like half of it's filmed in black and white, which I believe is right after the events of the ending of season 5.
Right.
Whenever it's in color, it's a little bit more in the future, which I thought was a very interesting. It was a different way of them filming the show. It made for a good premiere. It's just something different. It's not one of my favorite premieres, but it's a top tier one, I will say. But I will say, out of all of the premieres that we've gone through so far, it is probably because I like the pilot episode, like season 1, better. I think I like it more than season 2's, even though season 2's ain't bad, but that's when they lose Sophia, Kong gets shot at the end. It's a solid premiere, but I think this was better. I think it's better than 4, which is just like 30 days without an accident. 3 I like more because I like the idea of them like going through the prison for the first time. But then of course 5, No Sanctuary, I think to me it's the second best premiere of the entire show of any season. My favorite is the premiere to season 7, but we'll get to that here soon. But yeah, overall, that was just the main point of like the first half of the season. Excuse me.
But then, season 6 does kind of start off with the bang near the end of the episode too. Once those like air horns start going off, start redirecting the herd, everything starts hitting the fan right off the bat near the end of that episode. And we move right on into back to killing zombies.
Right. Hold on. I have to turn on my Do Not Disturb on.
Yeah, I had to do the same thing. I didn't want my phone vibrating this whole time.
Because whenever, you get a phone call, it ruins the stream a little bit. So I just try to turn on Do Not Disturb. But anyway, there was a lot of stuff that happened in this first half of the season, even though it felt like there wasn't a ton of time that passed. Because again, they're just dealing with this horde within probably the matter of 3 days. But I just know like all the most able bodies are out there. They're split up. We get introduced to Heath this episode, who's a good character.
Great character.
Yeah, who I really enjoyed Heath, even though he's not in it that much.
Yeah.
but because I know he played Dr. Dre in Straight Up Compton. I thought, oh, that was a good bigger name actor to bring into the show. Yeah, but I lost my train of thought.
No, it's all good. I'll pick it up from there. I mean, moving just along in the season, I mean, there's a lot of different storylines that happen. I mean, even the second episode, I know I'm going to kind of disagree with David here a little bit. I don't like the second episode of the season a whole lot because a lot of it is just setting up for what happens to Carl later this season. It sets up, a love interest for Carl. And, to me, that's kind of.
Was 2 just survived somehow?
Yeah. But there was that other plot line with, Morgan and the Wolves. But,
yeah,
it's called JSS. So it's kind of about them.
Sure. Yeah, I just know the biggest highlights for me was I just remember all these able-bodied people are out trying to move this horde, right? Or this herd. And that's when they're honestly their defenses are down. They get attacked by this different group called the Wolves, right? And you don't really have anyone there to protect them besides Carol, who honestly does the vast majority of the work, and Morgan's there. Damn. Sorry, guys. It's going to be rough today, but I wanted to make sure I got a show to you because I don't know when we'd be able to do this again before next week's episode. And the one after that is when we would talk about the ones who live. So you got to bear with me a little bit here. But what was your favorite episode of this half season? I would ask you.
Oh, man. I will say I really did like the ending of the third episode of this season.
Was that when the Wolves attacked? Am I wrong?
No. This is when he's standing when it's Nicholas and Glenn standing on top of the dumpster, and he kills himself. Because I remember even going to school the next day and talking to you, be like, dude, this better not be how Glenn goes. This better not be how he goes and all this. We were freaking out.
Right. Oh, yeah, that was crazy. Whenever Nicholas kills himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was a crazy moment because it's oh shit, he's gone. But there was always a lot of theories going on where that he lives because he didn't show up on Talking Dead immediately after, and usually if a big character dies, they're going to be on it, and especially Glenn, who's been there since the very beginning. Yeah, episode 3. Thank you. I do think that's a great episode. The way that episode ended, and with Glenn dying, they did a damn good job with that, and that's what kind of sucked about this season to me a little bit. I think they were kind of really blue balling you on the death of Glenn. I feel like you almost there were key moments where he almost died at least 5 times, and then it's all just to lead up to the Negan intro episode, right? Where he does in fact die, but we'll get there. But
I think one of the things that started, I don't mean to interrupt you here, but I think one of the things that they really started trying to do with this season that kind of made the show go a little downhill as it went on was all these different storylines are happening and we can never see what's actually going on. We want to see what's happening to Glenn, but no, they're going to show us the story of how Morgan showed up. It's you're having all these different things that are happening at the same time, but we don't want to see something. We want to see something else.
Right. And I do think the structure of the first half of the season was just kind of crazy, though. Because, again, it all took place only within, a few days of each other. I just remember, no matter what, I think season 6 was a season where I'm, almost each episode was, a banger after a banger for me. I remember, tuning in each week. I'm wow, this show is top tier right now. Season 5 was unreal for me. But this is where I feel like they upped their game a little bit more, action-wise, story-wise. Season 6 is honestly one of my favorite seasons, if not my favorite. Mainly because, one, I thought the structure of the first half was crazy, again, because you have everyone at different locations where each episode we're focusing on different storylines at the same time. You have how the Wolves attack, and then there's, the truck alarm going off, who's dealing with that. Then you get that Morgan flashback episode where I think it's one of the best episodes of the entire show, where it's just him with Eastman, who's this guy who brought Morgan back from being like crazy and like taught him Nirvana and like how
Taught him the stick.
how you don't have to kill. Like you have to find peace. Life is precious. All life is precious.
See, and that's one of the reasons why Morgan is my favorite character. I think he might even be more favorite for me than Rick. I mean, it just his entire storyline of jumping from, helping Rick survive in the very first episode to, coming back in to being in fear to, all of the things that's gone on with him throughout this entire time, seeing just how much character development he has gone through, not only The Walking Dead, but Fear the Walking Dead.
Right.
It's just crazy to see how all of that like took place and how each individual moment really impacted his character. Because, moving a little bit further into the season, after the walls of Alexandria were breached, everyone's hiding in their houses and stuff. Against everybody's wishes, Morgan is trying to save one of the wolves. Like, there's one wolf left, and he's doing all this stuff. He's even convinced Denise, who is wound up being Tara's girlfriend, like to help him save the wolf.
Right. We got introduced to Denise this season also, who became like the doctor after Pete died or got murked by Rick, right? So she was a good character too. She obviously saves Carl's life in No Way Out, which is I think it's the best episode of the entire show. Or like, it's either the best or the second best to me. No Way Out is clearly the best. But again, to go off your point with Morgan saving the wolf, like the main wolf character, right? All life is precious because like just by him saving this character, this guy sacrifices his life to save Denise, who goes on to save Carl. That's why all life is precious. Like that's like the craziness of it, where Rick's like, "Why are you keeping this dude alive? If he doesn't keep him alive, Carl loses his life." So that's just like it's crazy with how like where that philosophy comes from. How Morgan like wants to follow it so closely, and again, it's like it's a butterfly effect. By saving one life, you can save another.
Yeah, David.
Yeah, Sam gets eaten. Yes, he does.
I mean, it is also nice to see in this season. We've kind of brushed over it because I know that Aaron and I are anxious to get to season 7 here, but we also see Rick for the first time start to take his walls down. I mean, for this entire time up until, the beginning of season 6, he's had all of these defensive walls put up, especially after losing Lori. He's finding a community. He's learning how to function again in like a society,
right.
And he falls in love. And, he thinks that, maybe I can be happy again. But then all of that goes away in one night. He almost loses his son. He loses the person he's opening up to. And which one of the best sequences and like moments of family that we see in the entire show is when Rick goes back to feral mode, just whips out his hatchet, goes outside and starts clearing the entire damn herd.
Right.
Like,
that's beautiful because based on what you were saying, it's like he lost Jesse, and then he's so close to losing Carl. He's like, I'm going out there because I'm not losing this place too. And then he goes all on his own. He's taking out walker after walker. Then everyone's like, Rick is making a final stand. We are too. And everyone backs up behind him. It just proves he's the man. Everyone will rally behind him. And they're able to stop this entire herd that they tried to lead away from destroying their home. And it's like, again, that's like thousands of zombies. It's just a small group of people are able to take them out left and right. And I just think No Way Out is such a beautiful episode. Like, truly one of the best episodes of the entire show. I think the only ones that may be better are The Day Will Come When You Won't Be, which is the season 7 premiere, and then Too Far Gone and No Sanctuary. I think those are the only ones where it can compete against it. But personally, I think this is my second favorite episode of all time, is No Way Out. Where, again, I think the Negan coming in episode is my favorite episode of the entire show.
Well, I also do remember, like, we kind of skipped over this part of the mid-season finale for this season.
Sure.
But we also see Another great storyline, in my opinion, is the one that took place between Abraham, Sasha, and Daryl. Being out on the road, we see Abraham go through a little bit of a struggle between does he want to stay with Rosita now that he knows that there's way more communities of people out there. He starts to show feelings for Sasha. Again, maybe not the best, but it's character development for everybody.
Yeah.
And they find an RPG. Dope as hell,
Right.
honestly. And I remember watching that. It's like it was the after credit scene of that episode, and rolling up on this biker gang. It's like your stuff now belongs to Negan.
And that was hype when we saw
That was
hype because
hype.
again, yeah, you're right. That was the mid-season finale when we saw that, and I'm just like, now we gotta wait however long for the season to come back.
Yeah.
Right when they do a Negan name drop, like what the hell? But it didn't matter because then like after that wait, we got one of the best episodes of the entire show. You see Daryl blow up this big group of saviors, and a part of this that I really a big part of me thought that I really think they should have killed Gled in No Way Out, because yes, we got that like bait and switch type of moment thinking he died when Nicholas killed himself, right? But I think if he survived only to get back to Alexandria to save Maggie's life, because there was a moment there where he saved Maggie and he was about to get mauled by these zombies. I think I would have enjoyed that as a death scene.
I forget. Does he know yet that Maggie's pregnant, or has this not happened yet?
No, I think Aaron's the only one who knows she's pregnant because he just arrives back when the herd is attacking. She found out that she was pregnant and told Aaron when she wanted to go out looking for Gled.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, so he has no idea yet. Again, he just got back from being on his own. He found Enid out and about too, and he wanted to bring her back. But he basically saves Maggie from a bunch of walkers. He's about to eat it, but then Abraham like has like a machine gun. He's able to shoot all these walkers and save Glenn's life. Badass moment. But I still think I would have really liked that whole arc of him like escaping death, being trapped under a trash can for days, maybe, or at least a full ass night. And
well, we do got to give Enid some credit because she did save his life.
Yeah, and well, then he helps Enid get back to Alexandria, and then if he gets back just to save his pregnant wife, I think that would have been a good moment. But he was always meant to die to the hands of Negan, because that is the most powerful thing for Maggie's development. Well, I think we lost Bob, but that's okay. Well, hold on, I think we got him back.
I was gonna say I was gone for a second there.
What did you do?
I didn't do anything.
All right, it's okay. But anyway, Glenn had to die at the hands of Negan because, again, like what it does for Maggie's character is huge.
So what I was gonna say, because moving on a little bit in this season here, I was just looking at something that I had up. We get to finally meet one of the best communities in the Walking Dead universe,
The Hilltop.
The Hilltop.
Right.
Rick and Daryl. It's this nice, like almost buddy cop movie episode moment.
Okay, so just to stop you here a little bit, what's great about that episode that you're about to get to is that this comes right after No Way Out, where we learn that like you have one of the best scenes of Rick talking to Carl as he's like dying, and then Carl grabs his hand right after he gives this big speech to Carl, being like, "How I want to show you this world, Carl. He's seen it. He sees what these people can do when they're all together." And then you get to a little bit of a time jump. I don't know. You don't know how long, but it's definitely a little bit of a time jump. But again, it's like what you say. It's like a buddy cop episode. It's just Rick and Daryl getting supplies, and then they meet Jesus, who's a great character, which is our introduction to the Hilltop.
So funny too. That it was so funny, that interaction.
Well, it's this is like an episode where you actually just you get to see Rick and Daryl just have this awesome, like, this shows that they're brothers. Like, they don't have that much just one-on-one time together. They really don't. Right. And it's like, it's great to see it because it's like you and me just be able to hang out, like just us. Right. We don't get that much of that, So see that you get to see what their dynamics like, how they are brothers, how they're best friends, and how they just fucking hate this dick, like Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Then you get to the end of the episode, and Rick and Michonne get together. So that's crazy that this happens one episode after Rick loses this girl he's into. Again, who knows how long the time jump it was.
Right. It probably wasn't super long, but at least long enough for Carl not to be in a coma anymore.
Right.
Or not to be like under.
Right.
But yeah, so we get to meet the hilltop. We get to meet some of these people there. You know, they're not sure whether or not they can trust Alexandria yet because as of this moment, Hilltop is underneath the foot of the Saviors, and so you know they're trying to talk with Alexandria, trying to get things to work out, and they don't know what they're going into. Alexandria doesn't know what's going to happen. They're kind of like big dicking, like we can take care of them, no big deal. But
right.
That gets into the point that David made in here in the comments is, you know, we get to see them take on an entire compound where we see just how malicious the group can be, going in the dead of the night, taking out some of these people.
Right. Assuming that Negan's there, that this is all there is. And
right.
It's like, that's crazy. But again, like the ego on this group is ginormous at this point based on everything that they've been through. But they didn't think they're going up against a legit army of people. And then, again, what David said, you get Glenn's first murder, which sucks because, like, he has to go through all this just to eventually get put down by Negan a few episodes later. And I just really like the dynamic between Heath and Glenn in that episode because they're both like, have you ever taken a human life? No, I've been fortunate enough to be in this world where I've not had to take a life yet.
And I also want to point out here that Carol, one of the people who, you know, look at the flowers, Lizzie, look at the flowers, who kind of, you know, did what she always thought was necessary, you know, with Carolyn and David back at the prison, with Lizzie on the road. You know, she is somebody that we know is capable of doing anything. But after this whole interaction with Morgan, where she was, you know, dead set on killing the wolf, and Morgan wanted to save the wolf's life, Morgan indirectly, you know, further progressed Carol's development as a character.
He did.
And she didn't even want to do anything with this satellite post. And we saw in that episode, you know, following it where her and Maggie are taken, you know, just how much that's affected her. Well, she's still the badass we know she is, you know.
But she
A
started
lot of her standards and views changed. Yeah.
Yeah, she started to actually think about, like, I've done all these terrible things, but I've done it to save the people I love. But then I'm like, do I have to do it all the time? Because again, she didn't have to kill the wolf. Because the wolf, right when she kills him, right before she kills the wolf, he saves Denise's life. She didn't know that. So this guy was able to potentially turn over a new leaf, become a contributing member to their community, even. So that's like it's definitely something that she had to think about. Like, do I have to kill these people? So yeah, that's a lot of her development. Eventually, they meet the kingdom, her and Morgan, which is great. So we get introduced to all these different communities. I love the second half of the season because like this, like, oh, the world is getting much bigger. So I always say that after No Way Out, I see it as like the death of how The Walking Dead was and the birth of what The Walking Dead's going to become, where it's like, all right, we're beyond just dealing with walkers. We have communities and civilization to build now. But you have to go through the war of who's going to lead this world first. And that's when we get introduced to Negan.
There's a few other plot points I just want to briefly mention before we get to the last day on Earth, and that's just like some of those plot points where you know, Morgan leaves the show at the end of the season. He goes to Fear. You know,
What?
that obviously, yeah. It wasn't an episode near the end of the season that Morgan
Who are you
talks
talking
to
about?
Rick.
You're talking about Morgan? He doesn't leave till the end of season 8.
I'm dumb.
Yeah, him and Dwight leave after the war.
I thought Dwight left after the war, but Morgan wasn't a part of the war.
Morgan's in the last episode of season 8, dog.
That's right. He moves to the kingdom. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, he moves to the kingdom. He helps out there. Like he befriends
Okay.
Benjamin, who gets killed, and then that's why
All right. Yeah.
Henry
Yeah.
becomes like not his adopted kid, because that becomes Ezekiel and Carol's adopted kid, but like he was
Yeah.
close with Henry and his brother Benjamin, who gets killed by a savior.
You're right. I had my wires crossed a little bit there, but there was that big foreshadowing moment where Eugene found the place to craft his ammunition, so they could, with ammunition being so scarce in this world, now that they have a place to make it, that's a huge plot point there. And then we also have the relationship between Dwight and Daryl. That's developed a lot in this season.
That's true.
And
you're right, because I do forget that like we get introduced to Dwight when he's running away from the saviors, and then he comes back when he kills Denise. That's why Daryl can never trust the dude. Yeah.
But that plot point of like, there's more wrong with Dwight than Daryl in the sense where Dwight wishes he could be the man that Daryl is. And, continually getting put under Negan's foot, Negan taking his wife and all that. We just see, how much he lost and is striving to be better. He's trying to be Negan's Daryl, if that makes sense.
Well,
but
Negan's right hand man, like the polar opposite. It's like that same coin, different side, right? It's like
right.
Negan's the Rick, Dwight was the Daryl. But of course, we find out that Dwight, he really wants to change and help because he becomes like this double agent within. It doesn't work out for terribly long.
Because Dwight kills Denise.
Right. Dwight kills Denise. But again, it doesn't really take until Daryl's at the sanctuary, I feel, for Dwight to want to switch sides, I would say, because based on his wife, like what's going on with her, and
I do want to ask David and Carrie if they remember that scene where Denise died, and just how insane of a moment that was, where she's finally finding herself telling, I forget who it was off, but she was telling, I think Daryl or Rosita
off. Abraham. I think Abraham, or no, Abraham might not have been there, but Rosita and Daryl were for sure there with her.
Yeah, and just in the middle of her finally finding her voice.
Carrie, I'm glad you enjoy it, by the way, but go on.
Arrow through the skull, and just seeing her like continue on her rant for a little bit and then stop and be like,
It was a crazy moment. And what's crazy is that was supposed to be Abraham's death. That's how it was in the comics. And I was like, oh, sweet, awesome. We're going to get Abraham for much longer. But we really didn't get him that much longer. It's just so we get a 2-for-1 deal with the Negan introduction. But, it is what it is.
Yeah. Now we can get into one of the best series finales.
Yeah, but I always see this as like a 2-parter with the premiere and the finale. Basically just the whole lead up to Negan, how Maggie is not doing well. She's pregnant. They're trying to get her to the hilltop to go see her doctor. But every which way, they're getting blocked off by these saviors or different booby traps or roadblocks. But it's just all so they could make it to the one certain point. Now is to meet Negan. And you get the whole introduction to him. It's way better on the Blu-ray where you get the whole uncensored version, which is like identical to the comic introduction, which is great.
I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't like occasionally just go on YouTube and search up the uncensored speech.
Of course.
Just because of how amazing it is. And I'm so upset. I don't know who I lent my third compendium to, but I have no idea where it is. So I don't have it anymore. I know, it's so upsetting. Hold on.
That sucks. Yeah, but basically just all the lead up to the intro to Negan, where he's saying, you fucked up. You killed a lot of my men. Now half your shit is mine. Like it or not, it's what's happening. You are surrounded, but that was good. But You have to pay though in some way. You killed a lot of my men because they took out an entire compound. They also took out all the bikers, like at the beginning of No Way Out.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say he lost at least 20 people, right? So now he's like,
Oh yeah,
listen,
they took out the whole
I'm not.
compound, the RPG situation that
Yeah,
Daryl did, because that's when Negan didn't even know about that until that moment. He's like, "So you guys were the ones that took out little Timmy and his crew or whatever."
yeah, right. Uh, right.
I feel like I think that's a requirement. I think like you have to do the whistle before they say, "All right, you're in." But
I'm with you. Yeah, David. It's definitely it's a requirement. You have to. But anyway, Negan's like, I'm not gonna kill all of you because that's stupid. I need you guys to get me my shit. But he's like, but
oh
you
yeah,
have to be punished somehow. So I'm gonna beat the holy fuckity fuck out of one
out
of
of
you.
one of you.
And
If you guys haven't seen the uncensored version of the speech yet,
yeah, go watch it.
as soon as you're done watching us talk about it, go watch it. It is worth it. 100%.
Terry, the whistle is haunting because like whenever they heard that they were getting trapped and they had to go some different way. They just wind up where Negan is at the trailer. Excuse me.
And if you guys are interested in reading the comics at all, I would definitely say definitely look into it because the way that Negan is portrayed in the comics a lot, I'm not saying Jeffrey Dean Morgan did not do a good job because bless that man, but the comics did with their ability to use different language. It does bring a different level to it, at least in my opinion.
I would agree.
So,
Even though Negan in the show is my second favorite character,
oh yeah,
just his development is nuts. Being like the main bad guy for multiple seasons, and then which is way more than we ever got with the governor or like the Terminus people. This guy was like a main baddie for 2 years. He becomes like a series regular, especially when Rick leaves. But anyway, so he decides to kill someone, and of course we get that cliffhanger, which was one of the most infamous moments in TV history. Like we had to wait like 9 months because this was a season finale, so we had to wait forever. It wasn't like just a month with whenever they did a mid-season break just for Christmas, right? This was like at least a good 6 to 9 months of a break to find out who did Negan kill.
I remember hearing something about Steven Yeun, just like he I don't know if he deleted his social media or everything, but I remember him saying how much everyone was blowing him up. He couldn't say anything because everyone assumed it was him. But
so David, this pissed me off actually because I was so ready for this to be like, oh, Negan's the one who's gonna take off Rick's hand because they were building it up so much. They were building it up like crazy, and I wish it happened, but it is what it is.
so I will say,
to live, maybe who knows, but
at least from a production standpoint, like I've heard interviews with Michael Rooker, and he says he didn't mind losing his hand in the show, but the amount of work and prep work that it takes to like put on a prosthetic every episode, I feel like we probably would have lost Rick from the show sooner because he wouldn't want to continue to put up with that. That's one of the reasons they took Merle out when they did, not just for the story, but is because Michael Rooker didn't want to continue putting on the prosthetic. So I can kind of understand why they didn't choose to go that route because it's easier to not draw a hand.
It was always an issue with money. That's why they never did it. But also, you had Aaron lose an arm, and he can wear it every time we see it. We get a lot of screen time with Aaron overall. So I just think it's kind of crazy that Aaron looks a lot more like the Rick Grimes in the comics than Rick Grimes ever did. But
he does.
But it's okay because Aaron's sick. But Rick's the man. I always wanted to see him lose his hand, but it's okay. Again, they be the ones who live when they have like an insanely high budget. It's not that many episodes, so the filming process is a lot shorter. But anyway, so after this long break, we finally figure out who got Lucille'd by the vampire bat, and after the Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, we find out that Abraham was the one who was chosen, right? And I was like, oh my God, you're killing my favorite character or one of my favorite characters? Yes, deuces. So I was pissed. I'm like, just kill off Glenn. You do this for Maggie's story. Like, why are you killing off Abe? But again, we see that Daryl throws that punch, and then Negan's like, no exceptions, and then kills Glenn as well. Which is crazy because it's huge development for a character like Sasha, who fell in love with Abraham as well, so they started to become a thing. It's huge for Maggie, and those two were always like best friends after like their whole after the prison arc. So it's wild to see that development for both these characters, especially one with Sasha, who was never a character really in the comics, to give her more of a development of losing this person she loved.
There
So
was also, like you touched on, that development with Daryl. Like after that, he has blamed himself nonstop for Glenn's death.
yep,
He's like, if I never threw that punch at Negan, Glenn would still be alive.
yeah,
And
and
he
he's
hated himself for so long. And we don't get to see this until I think it's like season 9, maybe 10, where Daryl and Maggie finally mention it to one
way
another.
down the line. It's way down the line.
Yeah.
But it's nuts because like of course he blames himself. It never would have happened. But she doesn't blame Daryl, but he blames himself. So it's crazy. But yeah, that's definitely a character defining moment for like some insane development. So of course, Daryl gets taken to the sanctuary. He's like a prisoner of war. But then again, this whole season 7, I think as a whole, I think it's the weakest season of the entire show. Even though I think it has my favorite episode of the entire show. So it's a weird balance there. But I do think there's some great moments in season 7. Like I love the mid-season finale where Rosita takes a shot at Negan because Eugene made her a bullet. Spencer dies, like he's got no guts. Oh wait, you did have guts. And then the finale I think is really good too, where like the communities come together to start a war. So like the death of Sasha is what really brought the war forward, and like it's like, okay, we're gonna fight and we're gonna win.
One of my favorite characters of this season that we meet in episode 2 of it is Jerry from the Kingdom. I love Jerry. I love
Jerry's
Jerry.
great. Jerry's an awesome character. Yeah, I mean,
And we
again,
get
like
to
there's
meet
great stuff within season 7. Like you get a lot more of the kingdom. You get your introduction to Ezekiel, even who we haven't met yet either.
David, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was just about to go on a little rant like that. Like,
no, I agree though. Episode 2 is actually really good because again, you get that introduction to the kingdom with Ezekiel and Jerry, who are two of the better characters of the later part of this show. But again, I still think this just overall, it's like I feel like they drug out this season a little bit too much. I feel like there was stuff that you didn't really need. Like
this is what I was kind of touching on when we were talking about season 6, is where they made at least this part of the universe so big. There's so many stories that are happening, and it's hard to stay invested in these stories when you're going to be watching an episode about the kingdom one week and get invested in it, and you're not going to get to see anything about it again for another like week or two.
That was the hard thing with this season. I really think it was just all about meeting new communities or new groups. And then like you would go weeks without seeing Rick Grimes, which always sucked. And I always loved seeing Rick Grimes in the first half of this season because I like seeing him as this like whimpering dog, because he truly got neutered by Negan. Like where Rick was at, like his ego was at an all-time high, and it came down due to like him losing two of his strongest guys, two of his most trusted people in his life, with 2 swings of a bat, basically. And it's just, I wanted more of it. I wanted to see more of like how Rick was dealing with all of it, but he's just like, we got to give him half our shit because I can't lose any more of you. But then like it gets to the point where it's like, we are going to fight and we're going to win. Then we get Rick back to being who he used to be with season 8. We get there to the whole war.
We do see, some other great things in this season is, the relationship that starts to get formed between Negan and Carl. I believe it is in this season that Carl sneaks off to the sanctuary. I'm not sure what episode it is. I think it's the other side, but
it's a good episode. Oh yeah, but yeah, whenever that happens is a good one. Like Carl shoots at a bunch of people at the sanctuary. He's like, "Your kid has more balls than you, Rick." And it's like, oh, it's good stuff. But Carl, like, he's like, "Show me that eye." He's like, "That's fucking gross." And it's it's just a lot. There is good stuff. Like when I rewatched season 7 recently, I enjoyed it a lot more than I used to.
Hmm. I
But
think a little bit of that has to do because when I rewatched the show a couple months back, like it would be something that I could put on in the background while I'm like doing chores or something,
sure.
and I can watch all these episodes back to back. Whereas when it was coming out, we'd have to wait over a month to see our characters do something again. When now it's okay, it's just a couple episodes. I just have to binge a little bit, to get
No, I
to that
agree.
part.
That was definitely my biggest problem with this show. Is why I stopped watching after season 7.
Yeah,
Because
you
I
stopped
watched
watching for a while.
yeah, because I got to season 8, I was watching it weekly a little bit, but this was also my first year at college, so it's harder to like watch it each week as well. But I just wasn't fucking with it as much because whenever we get to season 8, season 8 is filmed in a very unique way where it just feels like one long movie. It's kind of like a 16 episode Disney Plus show in my eyes, where it's like if you're watching WandaVision, that's something you kind of want to just blow through because then it's like a one big movie. That's how I feel season 8 was, where it's hard to wait that week to week, but with it being on Netflix, you can just binge watch it. I think it hits a lot better. Uh, and so that's why I was able to find a lot more enjoyment with season 8 and season 7 on this recent rewatch. But again, I still think they're some of the weaker seasons, but I do enjoy them, and their highs are very good, but some of their lows are just dreadful. Dreadful. But go on, Bobby.
No, I was just asking if you were wanting to jump straight into 8 here.
We just
So,
go to 8 because again, like we went over the big highlights of 7. Like again, like the
mhm.
Rick's finally like, all right, let's
Oh,
fight. Sasha dies, which really sparks the war. Uh,
right. I mean, Sasha, for the longest time, she kept trying to like kill herself in some new like she just kept trying to kill herself, and she didn't want to be alive anymore. She lost the person she loved. She lost her brother. All this stuff, and that definitely hit hard for a lot of the fans. Just seeing somebody go through all of that, and then the community just opening up that coffin. But I do want to mention before we jump into 8 that we also get introduced to the scavengers in this season as well, the junkyard people.
well, okay,
Um,
I want to hit a few things also, but I also just want to say, shit farmer, I'm sorry you broke your fishing pole today, my man. But even though you probably spent too much on a new one, but I mean, if it's one of your favorite hobbies, it's okay to splurge on yourself a little bit every now and again. All right.
yeah,
Uh, but yes, there's Oceanside, which we need to talk about. And honestly, one of the most important characters we haven't really talked about that got introduced was Gregory, who is like the leader of the Hilltop and whatnot, who Maggie basically usurps a little bit. She becomes the leader of Hilltop. But uh, yeah, I guess we can just get into 8 if you want to, Bobby. But okay.
good enough for me.
So season 8 is again, I enjoyed it a lot more this recent rewatch. I also enjoyed it. I remember it was during COVID. That's why I did my last rewatch before this most recent one. Like during quarantine and whatnot, right? And this is when I was finally watching seasons 8 and 9 and 10 for the first time because I stopped watching in college, right? Or like the beginning of college. So I was like, fuck it, let's go back and watch my favorite show, see if it holds up, or like if the new stuff they're bringing out is any good. And I got to season 8, and I was like, why did they stop watching this? Because I think it's actually a very good season. The only problem with it is like at times there's a little bit too much of the war. I feel like they definitely could have shrunk it down a little bit. Uh,
See, I kind of disagree. I liked seeing this whole war. I liked it, taking a while because it does kind of hit the fact of, I'm not going to try to go into a whole speech about today's day and age, but everything's happening boom, 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 boom. Well, if this was how it would be in like an apocalypse, things are going to take a while to get going
no,
and everything.
you're
And
right. You're right.
yeah, and I think that everything that happens with the community with, oh my God, what Gregory, that's it. I wanted to say Gabriel, but I was like, no, that's the priest. Anyway, with everything that happens with Gregory inside of the hilltop, seeing that community, find its footing in the middle of the war, seeing the kingdom go through, having lied to their people about, what was really going on, to now we need to fight, you know, teaching Alexandria that, how to survive in this world. And then you have the scavengers who, are just, who's going to give us who's going to give us more. And then Oceanside, I feel, is the community that, like, was hurt the most by the saviors in general. They lost all the men, like they had no men, and like it was just a lot. There
No,
was so much going on, and I like to have that full impact of this war. You have to see these different communities and their stories develop, even if it's not like the most interesting. Like, would I be able to watch this week on a weekly basis if it was coming out right now? I'd probably watch it, but I probably wouldn't be sitting on my couch like, at 8 p.m. every week just to, see the new episode. I might wait to the next day or maybe a week just to have 2 episodes back to back.
yeah, I get it was hard. Like that's the thing. Again, like this is where I stopped watching the shows. I'm like, I'm not loving this. And I have to wait each week just to get to this point. But again, like as I said earlier, this season's definitely like a long movie. You have to treat it like that. Just while I binge it on Netflix, the season hits a lot better. Also, Shit Farmer. Harris isn't here right now. He's running late. But I'm sure he's seen The Beekeeper. So whenever he's doing a live stream, I would say definitely ask him. I know I want to see
I don't
that
know.
movie, though.
I think it looked pretty all right. Like, I
Yeah,
feel like it's like kind of like we went to go see Argyle,
yeah.
and that I do not want to go see that again. But it
was
was still fun to watch it because you're going with your buddies and everything. But
yeah, it was a fun movie, but it wasn't very good. But Beekeeper, I think it looks good. I love the director, of course, but I'm sure Harris has seen it. We were gonna get our buddy Brandon on, but he lost his voice over the weekend because again, a Mardi Gras.
Oh my God,
I know
that was so funny.
Oh, I know, but I know he. I think he saw it with his parents. Unfortunately, he's not here. But again, I think I've heard okay things. I'm sure it's fun. What did you say, Carrie?
She said one of the reasons she stopped watching was because of the pacing, and I can completely understand and agree to that statement. Also, David's statement of Gregory being a used car salesman.
Yeah, no, great statement. Carrie, I'm in the same boat. I do think the pacing definitely lost itself, but it lost its pacing in terms of it being a week-to-week show. Where like if this was like Stranger Things and like this was a Netflix show, then they just dropped it all at once. I think that would have really helped season 8, like by a long shot. But again, it's on network television, and that's how it is, just week to week. But again, season 8, it really climbed up my rankings on my most recent rewatch, and of course when I watched it during quarantine. But the ultimate downside to this season was a few things. One, I think I didn't love Daryl's character development. I think it became a little bit too more hardcore. And like, again, he hated Dwight. He still blames himself heavily for the death of Glenn. And that's why he just wants to stop at nothing to get Negan killed. But again, like he's kind of like he's doing things I feel that's very out of character for Daryl.
I think a lot of that had to do with the character development that he went through. I mean, they were trying to brainwash him for so long, and I'm kind of shocked that we kind of skipped over the episode. You're on Easy Street.
Yeah, it's big. Again, I want to try to make this a little bit of a quicker stream, only because I'm not feeling the best. But
no, I know, I got you.
But yeah, I mean, I understand where he's at. Like, especially, of course, he was a prisoner of war. He had to break out. Again, he feels that complete blame for the death of Glenn, where I understand it. I get it. But also at the same time, I don't know how. I think they could have handled it a little bit better. It's basically just all the point I'm trying to make. But of course, I think the biggest downside. I think the biggest downside of this season is easily the death of Carl. I think what I do think it's a good moment in terms of Rick's development, because he's the one who decides to have mercy on Negan, which obviously does a lot towards Maggie and Daryl, their developments as characters as well for later on in the show.
I think that there was a lot to unpack there with, Carl's final season. I'll just put it like that, because, the entire reason that this happened and like he got bit in the first place was he went out trying to help somebody that he saw his dad turn down. And he's like, everything that you've taught me up to this point, everything you've said to me is about building a new world. And you're going to just completely 180 on your words like that to me. And he went out on his own to do something and said one of the harshest things he's ever said to his father, but in the nicest way, is like, it's what mom would have wanted kind of thing, bringing Lori back into the conversation.
Right.
And just the fact that he wrote all of these letters saying goodbye to everybody.
Even
and,
to Negan, too.
Even to Negan. And I think that's the biggest thing that hit Rick, because he read Negan's letter before he read his own.
Yeah.
I think one of the things about it that I think they didn't do as well as they probably could have is showing just how much Carl's death affected Rick. I could just be forgetting and being stupid, but I think that they kind of steamrolled his death a little bit.
Well, I think the death of Carl was just big for the Rick showing Negan mercy. And again, I think it's just Carl and Morgan play a big role with that too. Of course, with Morgan, all life is precious. Even though he gets away from that during this season because he starts to become a little crazier again, wants to kill. Also, Shit Farmer, I just want to say, man, appreciate you, man. Of course, we want to bring you guys in on the conversation. You guys are important. That adds a lot more to what we're talking about. It also builds a bit of a community, just like this show we're talking about is building community, but yeah, of course, man, you're awesome. You want Harris to watch Biodome? I haven't heard of that, but yeah, you just I'll look into it. But I don't know, Bobby. What's your thoughts overall this season? I guess yay or nay?
I really liked season 8. I'll give it a yay. Because I am also a person who loves the whole post-apocalyptic world building. I like a lot of those movies. I Am Legend, Cloverfield, all that kind of stuff. I really like seeing how these worlds develop. So seeing all these different communities and how just maybe 50 miles away from one another, you can see just how differently they form. One has a monarchy, one is a different version of democracy, one's kind of like a dictatorship. You see all these different forms of what used to be come into play. And so I really like seeing how that happened and how people are learning to deal with other communities around them.
Right.
Negan obviously kind of has, I don't want to say an inferiority complex, but he wants to be in charge of everything. He wants to run and everything, make it work. I mean, I'm not going to go too much into, season 9, 10, 11 kind of thing, but we see that, even after the war, the sanctuary can't stand on its own.
No, it's impossible. Yeah, but but that Negan knew how to make it work. That's just he just did. But of course, he was the big dog. He was the boss, and he does have a god complex. He thinks he's bigger than Jesus. And again, he had all these people follow him. It would die for him. But he was someone who would put food on their plate, and that we even see that. Excuse me, the dynamic of saviors that start to live amongst them in season 9, which we'll talk about next week. How shit, baby, we enjoyed it when Negan was still around. What? Oh
no, I was just saying yes to David's comment.
Oh yeah, David, I agree. But I Am Legend's a great movie, fucking great movie. Excited for that sequel whenever it comes out. It's supposed to be Michael B. Jordan and Will Smith, which should be great.
It's been a long awaited for at least some more story for that to come out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
Even though I'm waiting on the sequel to Hancock with Will Smith. I love that movie. But anyway, I do think the finale is one of my favorite episodes of the entire show. Because it feels like a true. Honestly, if they wanted to, I think they could have just ended the show after this episode. If they really wanted to, like it's like the war ended. They're finally like, we are going to build the future here, and then Negan's going to be in prison. It just feels like a huge climax. Like again, that goes to my idea of like how this whole season felt like a long movie because like this felt like a legitimate climax to a movie. Like it just felt really grand in scale. Because I also, you love the moment when Eugene, he obviously was still always on their side, even though he pissed off so many people and ruined so many relationships. But he tampered with all their guns there with the ammo to make them all explode and backfire. And that's what helped them win. Bob, look up. Well, Carrie, what are you saying?
Oh, hands up.
Carrie, what are you saying to Bob?
I didn't do anything.
I know. She's calling you out, dude. What happened?
You want to see my shirt? It says "Life of the Party." It's a shirt I got for donating blood. Oh, wait, what was your comment? Oh, he does have a God complex. Yeah, but I mean, I still love Negan and everything that he's done. Going further off of what you had said of the show could end at that moment. I think that one of the hardest things that any TV show does is end because there's so many bad endings. I mean, it's really hard to put an ending on something that people don't necessarily want to see end.
Especially when it can just go on forever. Like, I mean, I know with like the show like Supernatural, that show went for 15 whole seasons. And it was always still damn good, to me at least. And it's like they could have kept going, but sometimes you just got to move on.
Sometimes, all good things must come to an end, the saying. And, it excuse me, but, I think that they made the right decision in not ending the show with Wrath, but because it did set up a lot of further points. Because at that moment, Rick and Maggie became not enemies, but
just they weren't as close as they used to be.
You get into a fight with your best friend and you guys don't talk for years. Maggie even like moves away from these communities to go work with Georgie, who we met earlier this season, and the hilltops getting rebuilt and all that stuff's going on.
Right, but I will always the first time I remember watching the finale.
That is the worst shit fire. I hate when that happens.
That shit sucks.
You know what I call that? I call that fireflying. But
You know what, David? Guess what? I did say how well Eugene played that. You missed it. Because I'm like, even like the whole idea without Eugene, they don't win the war. I said it. You can go back. I promise you, I said it.
I honestly, I'm not gonna lie. There are a couple times where my train of thought is just.
I know mine always goes all over the place, but I mean, we haven't talked about Eugene and how like that much where like he did betray the group, but like he was always. I think he was always on their side. He just really needed to like gain the trust of Negan, and it worked out.
I do really think that he's an underrated character in this whole show.
I think he's one of the best characters in the entire show. I love Eugene.
I'm not gonna say he's the best character.
He's one of the best, is what I'm saying. Rick, Daryl, Negan, Maggie, they all trample Eugene, but like I think Eugene's great.
I think like one of the things about Eugene is some of the best character development easily. I mean, I believe his name is Josh McDermott who plays him. He does a great job acting in this show and brings that cowardly awkwardness of just a nerd to the screen. He used his bullshit knowledge to lie his way to surviving, and that was his big skill.
Right.
And Yeah. I think Eugene and his character development, he's a great character.
You're
I
good.
wouldn't put him in my top 10, but
No, Eugene's definitely a top 10 character for me. I agree. Especially with this moment, like where he is the reason they won the war. Without him, they lose. They lose quickly. But yeah, overall, eight's good. It's just like there was just stuff they could have done better. But I think this was like the way they ended this season is how it's like, okay, the show's on the rise again. And then yeah, I just love the whole last moment between Rick and Negan, like underneath that tree. Where it's just like just give me a few seconds for Carl, and like stuff like that. And but then Rick just decides to slice his throat. It's like it's not very honorable of Rick, but he's like, save him.
and Maggie flips
the
out.
second he says that, and Maggie just loses her mind. I'm like, holy shit! First time I saw that, it destroyed me. Like this is an excellent scene. I couldn't believe like one, Rick is showing mercy, which we should. If you can show mercy to your biggest enemy, like you're doing the best thing a human can do. But
Lauren Conan is an amazing actress.
great, I agree.
Oh.
But yeah, I think so. I want to hear from you guys who are still watching. What was your favorite and least favorite episode of this season? And then I want to hear your rankings on season 6, 7, and 8, and then the entire show as a whole. Because I think we're going to try to rank seasons 1 through 8 now, and then we're going to call it quits. How's that sound, Bobby?
It's good for me.
Okay. What would you like to go first?
Man,
it's hard because now we have 8 seasons.
I feel like I might say something like a little different than I said last week. I will say I think I'll put season 6 in the number 1 seed. Like, my top tier.
I think so.
I really
too.
like season 6.
Then
I'd probably go like a 5, 4.
Those are easily, I think, even with
1, 3, 2.
Yeah, 1, 3, 2. But guess what? You didn't put 7 and 8 in that, dog.
Oh crap! I don't know numbers. I'd definitely put 8. God, take back my.
It's hard.
3, 1, 2. I'd have to write it down or something, but I would definitely put 8, 7, and 8 above 1.
Really?
I would probably put 3 right after 1 and 2 at the very bottom. Not because I don't like 2. I know a lot of people love season 2.
I'm a big defender of 2. You know this.
I know you are. And so it's not like anything's bad about it why I'm putting it at the bottom, because it is a great season. I just like some of the other stuff that they do more. And one of the reasons why I love season 1 so much is the same reason that you were talking about with season 8, is it felt almost like a movie. I mean, season 1 of The Walking Dead only had what, 8 episodes, something
6
like that.
Episodes. But yeah,
6 episodes.
I think 1 and 8 are the only seasons that truly feel like it's like a very contained movie-like structure.
I like what Shit Farmer just said. Sorry.
What if Carl grew up to be Casey from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? It'd be funny. I don't see how that's relevant, Shit Farmer, but I like the thought. But anyway,
I mean, hey, Chandler needs to be in some more stuff. I mean,
I agree.
The unfortunate, didn't he stop doing The Walking Dead because they didn't want to pay him as an adult?
Yes.
Yeah.
Harris brought that up right when we were logging out last week. We didn't really get to touch on that, but I wanted to kind of save that for this episode. I guess before I get my rankings, I'll touch on that a little bit. So it's the fact that they were going to kill him off because he just turned 18, and like it's just so they don't have to pay him like give him an actual full-on contract and pay him like adult money, which I thought was fucked. Because I mean, again, he's been on the show the whole time.
Right. We've seen him grow up in front of our eyes.
He grew up on that show. He grew up with these people. These people were a family to him, and they kind of screwed him. I know his dad was pissed about the situation. I know he says there's no bad blood. He was even at the Ones Who Live premiere that just happened. So it's like there's no bad blood, but it was a shitty situation.
What if we get to see like shots of Rick and Carl together again or something like that,
I don't
like
see
in a
it.
flashback or something. I don't know, but
I don't see it because Chandler is a lot older now.
I mean he
But
is, but
hey,
it could be before he
it
loses his
could
eye
be
or
like a
something.
season 8 timeline flashback potentially. It's definitely doable. I can see like a moment like with the Tyrese episode, like when he got bit, how there's like flashbacks. I can see that with Rick, but like he's not bit or anything, but he's just like severely dehydrated or something when he's trying to get away from the CRM or something. Um, where he's like hallucinating and he sees like the governor, he sees even Negan. Even though Negan's not dead, it'd still be a crazy conversation to have. Carl, Shane again. Again, that's what we saw with his final episode. Even I don't even know why I brought up the Tyrese episode. We saw it in Rick's final episode, which again we're going to go way into next week. That's the episode I know we're going to spend a lot of time on next week. Uh, but anyway, but
Yeah,
yeah, the situation was fucked. That's just bottom line with the whole Chandler Riggs
I do
situation.
want to ask you guys before we end this episode. I know I watched Fear, and I know that it's not the most popular Walking Dead show out there, and I still need to watch the final season because the final season came out.
Oh, did it?
But
Oh well, fully came out.
the
It's not on Hulu or
yeah,
anything yet, is it?
I don't think it's on a streaming service yet, but you know, I will admit it's not a great show in terms of, storyline and basis. I mean, hell, they dropped a nuke. But uh if you guys want me to talk a little bit about that next week when we get into, Rick leaving, because there are quite a few moments from that show where the CRM is involved. And I know we've seen Beyond World Beyond or
Well,
something like that.
yeah.
And there was a little bit of the CRM, but at least it looks like the CRM that we're seeing in the show is going to be a little bit different. So if you guys are interested in me bringing a little bit more fear into it, I can do that as well. But
Beautiful. All right, I guess I'll give my ranking, and then I guess we could head on out of here. All right, Bobby. Oh shit, David, you are so correct. That is a great thing to mention as well.
Trevor from GTA.
Yeah, Trevor from GTA plays Simon, who is in fact Negan's right hand man, who kind of betrays Negan a little bit. He just goes behind his back, thinking he can do things a little bit better than Negan at times. Like he screws up their whole relationship with the trash people, like Jadis. Which really helped turn the tides of the war a little bit once the trash. Like I know, I think
I
Simon,
believe their group was dubbed the Scavengers. Like that's the name of their group.
they're called the Scavengers. But I know Simon killed all the Jadis, and that really pissed off Negan, where Negan wanted him killed. But yeah, he was great. He was an awesome side character. I loved whenever he was on screen. I wish we got a little bit more of him. But yeah, he did a great job. I think his name's Stephen Ogue. He's in Better Call Saul as well, and he's great in that whenever he shows up. He's not in it that. I think he's only in it for like one episode, but he was great in that. That's one of my favorite shows of all time. So if you haven't seen Better Call Saul, give that a watch. But anyway,
I will say I think a lot of what at least in the development, I don't want to touch on it too long, but it's I think Carl obviously had a lot of influence on Negan. And I think that, we see it from a different perspective how Negan was losing his leadership with some of his community. But
well, yeah, because I
yeah,
mean that's what happens during war, though. Like a lot of people
yeah.
lose faith in those who lead them during war because it's sometimes they're not going to agree with what they're doing. But of course, Negan has a soft spot for kids. Like he will never kill a kid. Uh, but again, he used to be a gym teacher as well. So like he's had many relationships with kids throughout his life. Because I mean, I'm a teacher, and I get how that is. Uh,
Oh,
and
I want to get into that episode, Negan's backstory, next week.
yeah,
I,
oh yeah,
I
I'm
want to
excited to talk.
analyze the hell out of that one.
Great episode. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about that one too. Next week should be a lot of fun because it talks about the whole like last few seasons of the prime Walking Dead show before we get into the Walking Dead universe of shows of like here's Negan or not here's Negan, Dead City,
World Beyond, Dead City.
Daryl, and then of course the ones who live, which is right around the corner, which I'm so amped for. But I guess I'll get my rankings. I think I agree with you, Bob. I think season 6 overall is my favorite season. I love season 5, but I do think the arc with the best stuff was not my favorite stuff. I think that did bring it down, even though it's like the high points of 5 are remarkable, and I love the whole introduction to Alexandria. But again, I love the whole lead into No Way Out, uh, with the whole first half of season 6, and then of course the second half of season 6. I feel like once we got No Way Out, I felt like each episode was just like damn good. I feel like we're getting like elite episodes back to back to back. Uh, but and then I think five is my second favorite season. Then 4, uh, then 2. It's hard.
7, 8, 3, 1.
I think I'm gonna go 3 after 2, and then I think I would go 1, 8, and then 7. I think that would be my ranking. Again, I love season 8.
No,
I really
know
love
what you're.
season 8, but there was
I know
something
how you're
about
doing it.
what?
I don't want to cut you off. Go, go, go.
Okay. Again, like season 7, I just think was the weakest season by a long shot, but I still think it has a lot of good stuff. But again, I still like how separated the group is at times, where it's like it feels like again during the week watch, because that's how I always try to remember it. It was like when I was watching week to week, right? Even though like yes, it has climbed up a bit. Like I used to think 7 was just like complete dog shit season, but I do enjoy it. Like I don't think there's a single bad season in The Walking Dead. This is just the weakest one. 8, I love.
It's really hard to judge a whole season, especially if you know there are good episodes and bad episodes
Right.
in said season.
Yeah, I agree. But again, I love season 8. But 1, I just think I love because that's the whole introduction to this world. So I like that more than those 2 seasons. And 3, that was the season where I truly got really into the show. So it holds a special place in my heart, and that's why I have that over it. And then 2, I know it's a lot of people's least favorite season, honestly. But again, I love that Frank Darabont was still the showrunner, who of course made one of the best movies of all time, The Shawshank Redemption. That's why I do love season 1 a lot as well. But again, Shane's just one of my favorite characters in the entire universe, and 2 I think does unreal stuff with this character. Especially since in the comics he's barely a character. He's only in the first volume of the entire comic run. So they expanded upon him, and John Berthal is a masterclass actor.
Oh my god!
So season 2 is just.
I told you I shook his hand once.
I know, it's crazy. Season 2 is just always a season that I love going back to for rewatches. Because again, it's still early on in the apocalypse. And I love that shit and how these characters grow. But yeah, I mean, sometimes again, it's my opinion, and it's always has the ability to change sometimes. So this might not be my final rankings when we're done next week, but as of right now, that's my ranking.
I would say, I don't mean to cut you off here, but I do want to that comment that Shit Farmer made. I'm not gonna lie, I thought about that kind of thing as well. Oh my god, I was actually thinking about asking you guys. You know, I thought like if we ever had like zombies happen,
let's say it happens
in real life.
Yeah.
It happened today. It wouldn't be Walking Dead walkers, all right?
Probably not.
Like, I'm not saying that the guys in the show are pussies or anything, but I feel like it's not as scary as, you know, I Am Legend zombies or like The Last of Us.
Yeah, I was about to mention The Last of Us. I think it's the most likely scenario of what it would be like.
It's probably going to be amped up, you know, crazy gorilla type of zombies.
Because it's gonna be more like like a drug based thing where it's like it's more animal instinct, where like I think the brain would still work a more than like the zombies and the Walking Dead. I don't think it would be World War Z type shit, but I do think they'd be a little bit more beefed up than what we get in the Walking Dead.
Hell, it could be World War Z type stuff, but. Anyway, I mean, I have a go bag ready for it whenever it happens.
I know, Bob. I'm going to your place when it happens, but I was gonna build off that a little bit more, but I think I lost my train of thought. Oh, actually, Shit Farmer, you're right. I bet you guys could have it solved, but again, I think the government would be the biggest factor of why society would collapse more so. Just try to control everything how they want to control it. as well as just the military getting heavily involved, and that could screw a lot of shit up. So, but yeah, I think that's gonna do it though, Bob. Any final words?
I mean, I'm good if you are. I'm anxious to get into some of it next week. Um, I mean, if I know that, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
All right, beautiful. Yeah, so yeah, make sure to tune in next week. We're gonna try to do it around the same time again next week. My hours at work changed a little bit, so yeah, roughly around 5:30 next week. We will talk
So did
about
mine change as well. So
right. So
we'll
we'll
we'll stay in touch and talk about it.
yeah again. I will put in the community notes if they're. I'll always put before like the day of or day before when we plan on doing the show. So don't worry. But yeah, this was fun, guys. I thought this was a damn good stream. Always love the community feedback from you guys in the chat. Make sure to tell your friends, anyone who likes The Walking Dead. Next week, we are talking seasons 9, 10, and 11. The finale of The Walking Dead is around the corner. So, and then, of course, the week after that, we have The Ones Who Live with the infamous return of Rick Grimes and Michonne Grimes. I cannot wait. All right, guys, it's been fun. Keep it real. I'll catch y'all very soon. Bye-bye.